Hey everybody, Shel Broadnax here with Real Estate Staging Association. I wanted to thank you for taking your evening today to talk to us about newbie information. We're going to cover some information on insurance today, and then we'll open it up for general questions. So I wanted to just open up on video to greet everybody, and then I want to make sure that everybody can actually hear me. So if you're in the chat box, can somebody just type in that, yes, you can hear me? That way we know all the equipment's working wonderful. And then I'm going to pop off my video and then I'm going to start a little slide presentation. So anybody out there, Charlotte, can you hear us? Can you type in the chat box if you can hear? Or Ginny, I see you're on as well. Loud and clear. Great. Okay, I'm going to turn off my video. And you see this other lovely picture here. I have Bob Johnson with me. Bob is with Staging Risk Management. I'll tell the story about how I met Bob and why he's my hero and why he should be your hero as well. But Bob, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just start a quick slide presentation. And I'm going to move through this rather quickly, and then I'm going to open it up for questions because unfortunately I can't see the chat questions while I'm giving the presentation. So we're going to do it this way. Again, we're going to talk about anything newbie related that you have questions after this little presentation about the insurance. But I saw on social media this week there was a lot of people talking about insurance and a lot of things that people just don't understand, especially when you're first starting out. Actually, let me go back over to the chat with everybody that's on the webinar right now. Can you just type in the chat box how many years you've been in business? And I just clicked the chat box and I actually can see you at the same time. So no, I can't ask questions, answer questions as we go along. But if you can just type how many years have you been in business into the chat box quickly, that way I can just kind of gauge where everybody's at. And then also, if you have regular staging general liability insurance, just put a yes to insurance or no. So if you've been in business 3 years, put a 3 and a yes, or 3 and a no if you don't have insurance. Okay, so we got a couple people with 1 year, one with 3 years. Yes to insurance, great. Nikki, awesome, just started last month. Then I am so glad you're on this because when you start doing it correctly from the get-go, it's much easier on your business. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this particular program. It's called Staging Risk Management. And been in the industry since 2002. And one of the things that I've seen is a lot of loss. So we have stagers that build their inventory, whether it be just their accessories or large scale items, they're building that inventory. They put it out in a vacant listing and something happens. And something that's out of their control happens and the furniture's damaged, destroyed, or stolen, completely stolen. Like a moving truck pulls up to the home, 2 o'clock in the morning, thieves run in and they pull out everything and they stick it in the truck and they drive away and you've got a complete loss. And so I've heard this over the years, and there was always something that I wanted to be able to do, because what would happen is stagers, their general liability policy, yes, would cover that particular loss. But here's the thing, why should it? Because that can raise your rates, number one, and after so many losses, and sometimes even just one big one, you may not be renewed. So it just makes it more difficult for you to get insurance again in the future, and it's more costly because you're a higher risk because you filed a claim. So my dream was to be able to have a supplemental policy that would protect your policy, and it shouldn't have to take a hit. So last year, I got this phone call out of the blue by Bob, who was just asking me questions about loss and what was standard and how did people handle it. And he was asking some really great questions. So of course I was taken back for a minute. I'm like, wait a minute, I have to know you. Who are you? Why are you asking me this? And Bob told a story. In fact, Bob, do you just want to tell the story quickly about your client and how this all came about?
Yes, it actually was a real estate agent in Northern California who came up to me because I have had multiple years experience with the California Department of Insurance and asked, is there anything out there, because their client had just finished having their staging completely stolen. They had put the furniture in the day before. The agent went out the next day to have the open house with all the agents coming from their office, and there was nothing there. And so the homeowner, and rightly so, was responsible for the loss. But I started looking into it and thought, why isn't there something here? Because there certainly could be something that would protect stagers and their business, protect the seller, and not have them shy away from staging just because they don't want to take the responsibility. So the SRM staging policy was born.
Yep. And there you have it. And it took, gosh, 7, 8, 9, 10 months. How long did it take to actually get it done?
It was about 8 months.
It's about 8 months, right?
Yes.
So it was a long time coming, but I'm so happy about it. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. So basically, have you ever lost a job? I want to know. Anybody, type in the chat box. Did you ever lose a job? And I know some of you are new, so you might not be able to answer this. But because a homeowner didn't want to be responsible for your inventory should a loss occur. Has anybody had any feedback? Have you ever had anybody balk at that? It's very common that people will say, wait a minute, why do I have to insure your sofa? It's not my sofa. If something happens to it, why do I have to pay for it? It's not mine. Well, it's the same kind of concept. You know, when you rent a car, and most people don't know this about your cars and car rentals, and most people don't know what I'm going to tell you next about vacant and homeowners insurance. But when you rent a car, you go on vacation, you have to have insurance on that vehicle. Now, some people say, no, I don't want to take their damage waiver, which is basically something that you pay extra for the day. It works kind of like insurance. It makes you no longer responsible for a debt on that vehicle should a loss occur. So if you are sitting at a stoplight and you don't take their damage waiver and somebody comes up to your vehicle with a baseball bat and they just pummel that rental with the baseball bat and broke every single window out, damaged every single piece of metal on that vehicle, and you slowly drive that back to the rental company, you are responsible for the damage. It doesn't matter that a felony was committed. It doesn't matter if there was a death involved, if there was an accident it was caused by somebody else, you are going to be responsible. Now, of course, the collections department for the rental company, they're going to do their best to subrogate against the actual person that's at fault if they can do it. But ultimately, because you didn't take their damage waiver, you're responsible. And of course, a lot of people think, no, I'm not going to pay an extra however many dollars a day for the damage waiver because my own personal auto insurance will cover me. And that I ask, but why would you want to? Because we all know, have you ever filed an insurance claim with your auto insurance? And then what happens? That's right. Next time your policy renews, they jack up your insurance and your rates get raised for 3 years. You get 2 tickets in a row. In 18 months, they're going to raise your rates for 3 years. You file a claim, those rates are going to go up. And sometimes, if it's big enough one, you won't get renewed. So my thing is, why would you want your own insurance policy to pay out on somebody else's car? So there's the concept when you look at the rental car. Now let's look at that as it equates to homes. Your inventory is in somebody else's home. You have no care, control, you have no custody over it. Your insurance, in my opinion, shouldn't have to take the hit. Some people do. You file a claim and sometimes you can not be renewed. So this policy is going to help you with that. Now, also, theft of your staging inventory can cost you thousands. If you've been on social media, in the media groups lately, there's been several stagers, especially up in the Pacific Northwest, have had their entire inventory emptied from a home. Again, moving truck pulls up, they empty everything out of the house. Now, the last one that I heard about was about an $18,000 loss, and they didn't even file a claim with their insurance carrier. And if they have more than one claim, let's just say you had a break-in and, pipes broke someplace in a home, or there was a fire, something else happens, and you just happen to have a string of bad luck and you get 2 in a row. What are you going to do? How many times can your own personal business absorb that loss? For the $18,000 loss that I just read about, it was a pretty big company, and they would rather take an $18,000 loss than file a claim with their insurance carrier. So that tells you a little bit about that. So this new SRM policy is going to cover theft, vandalism, and even more. So a claim as low as $7,000 can result in the cancellation of a policy, or a couple small claims can do that as well, or again, jack your rates up. How much inventory do you have to have in a property? 10,000 on the low end, 30,000 or more on the very high end, especially if it's a luxury listing. One loss could absolutely be catastrophic to your business. How many losses can your business sustain if your client is not insured? And then let's talk about this. Bob, you can also attest to the fact that your homeowner's insurance policy, does that cover the contents after 60 days of being vacant?
No, this is where a lot of people don't realize that depending on your homeowner's insurance carrier, if the property is vacant, some 30 days, some 60, you lose your personal property coverage. So this is a great value-added educational tip if you're working with an agent who their client might have been transferred to a new location and you're now in a vacant house. Your agent will very much appreciate you bringing this up so they can let their client know to get an additional addendum on that furniture that might be stored in the garage because they don't know where they're actually going to move the furniture yet or whatever the case may be. So yes, don't count on homeowners insurance on items that, one, are not owned by the homeowner, and two, as you say, Shell, if the property is vacant, it could be a whole different situation and they might not have any coverage at all.
Exactly. So even the homeowners themselves, most don't realize this. So again, if you get transferred someplace, and they might have even taken most of their furniture, but if they left it behind and it was just sitting vacant for more than 60 days and there was a fire, they're not going to recover the loss of the contents inside the home. And then furthermore with that, it's not going to cover your contents because they don't own your inventory. Now, the other great thing about this policy, this is something that I really, really love, is let's talk about, Bob, how does this work with court furniture rental? They have a damage waiver, which is about damage, little wears and tears and things like that. But can you explain to everybody how this policy will help with an occupied listing or even a vacant if it happens to be vacant, but with court insurance specifically?
Yes, if you're renting from court or you're using even another rental company, the beauty of this policy is when you order it, you want to make sure you have yourself as the insured. That way you're in control of any claims. And then you can add the rental company on as an additional insured. There is no cost to this. So you'd want to add on the rental company and show them that declaration page, because some of the rental companies will waive the damage waiver fee if you can show that there's another insurance that's on the property. So it can actually reduce your cost of renting that furniture.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the coverage. So for this particular policy, the initial coverage term is 60 days. Now, we all hope and keep your fingers crossed that when you do a stage that you can get it staged, on the market, sold, and closed within 60 days. However, if you can't and it stretches over that 60-day mark, you can do a renewal, and those are in 30-day increments at a reduced premium. So all of the policies have a $500 deductible, and for up to $10,000 worth of inventory, the policy is only $180. You just can't beat that. For up to $20,000, it's $250, and for those higher end listings to $30,000, to $300 premium. So again, it is very, very cost effective to be able to do this. So let's talk about how it is that you're going to position this particular policy. So here's a couple different ways. One, you can just say in your contract, this is a value-added benefit. I'm including it in the contract. Of course, you're going to want to increase your fees by that policy amount to be able to pay for that, to offset it. You want to stand above your competition by including the policy. So the benefits of the client is that, you know, they have no worries. You've provided the coverage. It saves the client, the agent, and the stager relationship should a loss occur. Now, another way is that the homeowner can actually pay for the actual policy. So you would be stating in your contract, as you all should be doing right now anyway, is that they are responsible for the damage. But if they resist being responsible, offer them the SRM policy. If they insist that their homeowner's policy will cover a loss, ask to be listed as an additional assured. And that way you're going to get paperwork back. And of course, when they call and they realize that they most likely aren't going to be able to do that, then they're going to say, oh, wait a minute, this is, we can't do that. So it's worth the $180 to $300, a little bit extra, just for the reassurance that that they're going to be safe and they're going to be covered. So to be safe, neither one of you want a claim on your policy, right? They don't want it, especially when they're moving and they need new homeowners insurance. They don't want rates to go up on their ends. You don't know what kind of history they've had, if they've already filed claims or anything like that. So it's just a really big benefit to be able to have this. So again, this is no worries to your client, no hit to their personal policy, even if they had coverage. All this boils down to there's no risk and there's a lot of peace of mind. So it's super, super great policy to be able to have. I see a couple comments coming in that yes, but they also are using staging insurance and compensation with Pen X. I'm not sure what that means. Both staging insurance and workers' compensation, I think you mean, Yolanda.
Shell, if I could interject something on that, since you talked about the seller potentially ordering the policy.
Well, I talked about not the seller ordering it. The stager orders it, but you're going to invoice the homeowner, so they pay for it.
Okay.
So it's a line item.
Yeah, we did have one stager who had their client order it because the client was using their credit card. And you can do that, but the one thing that's very important as a stager, and I touched on it before, make sure you are listed as an additional insured on the policy. And the reason for that is if you have the seller do it, just so they're having it on their credit card and you're worried about cash flow issues, if you're not listed, now you're at their mercy of when they're going to go through the claims process if something were to happen. And if they're moving out of town and they're involved in a new job, probably the last thing on their list is making a claim on an insurance policy. If you're listed on the policy, then you can handle that time frame so you get your replacement value back for that staging property that was vandalized or stolen or whatever the peril might be.
Yeah, I strongly recommend that stagers, you just take that bull by the horns and order the policy on your own. You line item, they're paying you anyway, that particular client, they're going to pay you with a credit card or a check. So to have that be part of your agreement, your contract, and that way you're listed. That's the best way to go, because like Bob said, boy, they're moving, they're busy. The last thing they want to do is have to take an hour or so out of their day, and so you can get paid for something. And especially if it's a loss, like a loss of a fire, their whole house is gone. They don't need the added stress of being able to do it. So I want to open this up for questions. Does anybody have any questions? We can kind of cover this. And then if anybody has any general questions just about being new to the industry, we're open for that as well. Hey, Kim, Kim was looking for a copy of the presentation. If you go to the RESA website under the resources or even on the homepage, click on the homepage of RESA, you're going to see the big SRM staging policy logo. If you click through to that, it's going to take you to a page which will have all kinds of information about this. All this information is duplicated, so you can get it there. And then we'll also send a copy of this webinar to everyone afterwards. The system will automatically send it to you. Is it worth it to have insurance if you're just doing occupied consults? Okay, for this particular policy, no. This is to protect your inventory, but if you're doing occupied consults, you're setting foot in somebody's home, absolutely, you need to have insurance. If you're going to represent yourself that you're a professional real estate stager, professionals have insurance. You're walking into somebody else's home, you hit something, you break something, you do anything to damage their home, you want to be covered. So that's where your other insurance comes into play. You've got your general liability, and then you've got your inventory, your staging risk management policy.
And Shell, I know somebody mentioned 10X earlier. I know they're a partner with RESA. The policies that they write for what Shell just talked about are very, very affordable.
Absolutely. I know. I just talked to Judy about 30 minutes ago, right before we started. She was going to be able to join us, and unfortunately, she double booked herself, so she wasn't able to pop on. But that insurance program has been such a success. It's all through the power of RESA and the power of everybody getting together in their trade association, we were able to go out and get these insurance companies to understand and to write this program. So I've been working exclusively with PenX on that for all these years. She is a big supporter of this particular policy as well. And we recommend people do both. Again, it's peace of mind just to knowing that you don't ever have to take that particular hit. Keep those questions coming. I know I'm not all that and a bag of chips to have answered everything so perfectly that you can't possibly have a question. So we're open to anything insurance related or otherwise. Feel free at this point to go ahead and just put your questions in. We usually go for a full hour. I'm willing to stay, and usually at the end of the hour, if people are still asking questions, I will absolutely stay on as well. And then sometimes there's people that just don't have a lot of questions, and then we can end early as well. So it's all up to you. These webinars are all for you, so we're willing to do whatever it is that you guys are wanting to do this evening.
Shell, I know before we got on with everybody, we were talking about something we're working on in the contract. Should I bring that up?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, all of you are, if you're newbies, you're putting together your staging contract. You're working either with an attorney or you have another staging friend who's sharing information. We have had a request at SRM to come up with some inserts you can put in your contracts, and most of the stages that have brought them up are inserting it right after you mention to the client that they are going to be responsible for the staging material, furniture, and everything else when it's in their care. But then they have a little checkbox that's going to allow the client to opt in or opt out. We're putting this together, so if you want something like that for your contracts, just let Jill know, or you can certainly email SRM, email me, and when we get it all approved, we'll be happy to pass that on. But we're doing it for two reasons. One, it's a very comfortable way to bring up the policy as you're talking to the client, so you don't have to worry about what kind of presentation skills you're going to need. And two, with the client opting out, let's say they do opt out and say, no, I've got other insurance for that, and something does happen and you find out they don't, and now they're responsible and they're coming back and saying, how come you didn't tell me about this? Well,
absolutely.
You can point to your own contract where you did bring it up and they initialed they didn't want it. Yep. Real estate agents use this, and I don't know if we have any real estate agents on the line, but when real estate agents in the different states go through the purchase agreements, they're getting their client to opt in and opt out of a lot of things, and they're doing it for their own risk management. And in talking with everybody and working with RESA and Shell, we're all about trying to reduce the risk for you and your business. That's what we're trying to do. And this is just another way we're addressing risk management for your contracts and in your business.
Yep, and I love that option to be able to do it. It's the same concept as a damage waiver when you're at a rental company for your car, or you're at a rental company like Court. Check it if you want it, opt out if you don't, initial that you want it or you don't want it. That way you're covered, and it's a good way to be able to have it. You just can't say damage waiver, it's an actual policy. So I love that. I would highly recommend 100% of the time doing that with your particular contract. So it looks like we've got some questions coming in. Advice on reaching out to realtors for the first time. Is it worth it to join a local NAR group? There's no such thing as a NAR group. So let me just educate to make sure everybody knows the right language. NAR is the National Association of Realtors. They're a national organization. Underneath NAR nationally, you have your state association of realtors, and then you have your local association of realtors. So I think what you mean, Sheila, is that is it worth it to join your local association of realtors? Yes, 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 and yes. 100% yes. And this is all going to tie up with the questions. Gosh, Nikki, I'm sorry they feel like they're snubbing you. Nikki, can you type in the box where you're located, city and state? So here's the thing. RESA was actually founded off the business model of the Women's Council of Realtors. So in 2002, I got into the industry and I was working for a staging training company. And I got very much involved with the local association of realtors. I got involved with the Women's Council of Realtors. I raised my income $90,000 in 12 months by participating. So what I thought was, should we not duplicate this for stagers? So that's how RESA was born. It's the same concept. So when you have a local chapter of RESA, it's the same equivalent of your local association of realtors type of concept, or a marketing group, or, you know, sometimes BNI or Women's Council. If you've ever been to a Women's Council of Realtors meeting, that's the way the stager, the RESA chapter should be operating. It's the same type of concept. So what I recommend that you do, if you have a RESA chapter near you, join that, number one. Number two, join your local Women's Council of Realtors and join your local association of realtors. If and only if you are the type of person that likes to do engagement marketing, where you're networking, you might volunteer for something. If you're that type of personality where you like to put yourself out that way, that's an amazing thing. That's what I did, and I'm very successful at it. I'm a huge proponent. But my business partner a few years ago, I had said to her, you know, gosh, you got to join WCR. I love WCR. That's how RESA was founded, was through my work with them. Go join it. It'll be the best thing you've ever done. She's like, oh, I joined and I didn't like it. I'm like, well, what do you mean you don't like it? How do you not like it? There's people, there's business. You want business from real estate agents. It's like, should be shooting fish in a barrel because they're all in one room. And I said, how many times did you go? Twice. Okay. Well, let me tell you something. Going twice is not going to do anything for you. If you want to join something like that, it's what you put into it. It's the same thing as with RESA. Sometimes we have people that join RESA because they want to be able to show their clients that they follow a code of ethics and they belong to their trade association, and they get a directory listing with their logo. It's $130 a year, more than worth it for $130 a year. And they're just dues paying members. That's just what they do. And then there's other people that says, you know what? $130 a year, that's amazing. For that, I'm going to get the directory, I'm going to get the code of ethics, I'm going to get the logo, I'm going to join a chapter, I'm going to do everything it is that I can do to get involved. I'm going to take a leadership position, and you really lean in and you dive into it and you take full advantage. Same concept when you are joining your local association of realtors or your women's council. If you're not somebody who wants to do engagement marketing with people, then don't go. You wouldn't want to be able to get involved. But if you are going to get involved, go to their meetings and become a staple, become one of them. You need to infiltrate, like you are going in as a Navy SEAL and you're just infiltrating their particular world. Now, that doesn't mean that you walk in the doors in the first day that you're there and you're at a luncheon or a breakfast. Don't go and say, I'm going to hand out 50 of my business cards. That's not the goal. It doesn't do you any good to empty your business card supply and deplete all of those. You want to go and you want to make meaningful connections. So don't shove yourself down their throats. Just introduce yourself. Yeah, I'm Sheila. I'm a home stager. Nice to meet you. How are you? Or do an elevator speech. Someone's going to say, what do you do? Oh, my name's Sheila. I help people get the most equity out of their properties. Oh, how do you do that? I help them merchandise it. It's also called staging. I'm sure you've heard of it, right? You ever had one of those listings that didn't sell? Talk to them, engage them. When you're sitting at breakfast, have conversations. If you hear somebody talking about a great book, and you found out they were an avid reader, I would be going home and, you know, with one of the best books you've read recently or heard from somebody, and send it to them. Hey, I heard you like to read. I heard this was a really good book. Here's a good read. Or somebody said they were looking for an elliptical machine. I'd be going to Craigslist and saying, hey, I found this elliptical machine as I was browsing Craigslist. You mentioned it at breakfast. Thought you might want it. Pass it on to them. Talk to them about everything in the world other than trying to get a sale, and you build your relationships. The other thing that's a good thing to be able to do when you do join these types of groups is to get involved. So if you're going to volunteer, I call it networking volunteerism. And a lot of people say, Shell, I don't have time to volunteer. And I say, what? Are you crazy? You don't have volunteer? You don't have time to market your business? Because when you join one of these groups, you're going to either get involved in ticket sales for an event that they might have. Why? Because it's going to get you in front of more people. It gives you a reason other than your staging business to get in the door. You can go into a brokerage and say, hey, I'm selling tickets for the Women's Council fashion show or the crab feed. Would anybody like to buy some? And when you deliver the tickets, put them in your branded envelope with a business card stapled to it and put the tickets on the inside and just leave them in the agent's box or drop them to them. Again, don't shove yourself down their throats, but just be visible and be there and infiltrate. The other department the other volunteer position that you can do is hospitality. So at their meetings, they have a hospitality committee. They have people that will sit at the door and check everybody into the event. Well, if you've got 75 people at this great luncheon or a breakfast, you've just met 75 people. You should have your branded name tag on your blazer, your blouse, whatever you're wearing, so they know who you are. You're taking their tickets, you're introducing them. Again, you are involved. So hospitality, sales, decorations committee. Sometimes they're going to do a crowd feed or a fashion show and they need it to look amazing. Y'all are stagers. Everybody should be able to cover that part of it. The one thing that I do want to stress is that if you get involved and you're doing something on a volunteer basis, you must bring your A game. They are testing you. If you don't show up for meetings, if you don't return phone calls, if you drop the ball, if whatever it is that you are doing is not at 100%, you're not going to get business from them. So I am a big proponent of these types of groups, but you get what you put into it. And again, if you're somebody that just doesn't like all that hoo-ha with the talking to people, don't bother. Don't do it, because people that you'll just get there. Like my girlfriend, she just wasn't one of those people. Nobody would talk to her. She was just closed off. She had a bad attitude about it from the get-go. So that wasn't for her. She found other ways to market her business. But yes, I love those. Chambers of Commerce, I would not personally. $1,000 a year. How many clients are you literally going to get at one of those? When you go to a chamber event, yes, there's people there and there's other businesses there, but it's not a real estate event. Again, you want to be shooting fish in a barrel. When you go to a women's council event, all the people there are involved in the real estate transaction. There can be some affiliates, but there's also real estate agents. You go to a chamber of commerce, not so much. So I personally don't recommend that. I don't recommend B&I either. Then you only have one person from every profession there. So that's not something that I would do, but the other ones, absolutely. Yolanda, Women's Council, I just love them. And again, you can get involved on local levels and ask to do a presentation. If you're a great speaker, do that. Put yourself out there as a speaker. If you want to teach our MCE class, Staging to Sell, what every agent should know, and you're a great speaker and you've been in business for more than a year and you're a RESA Pro and you qualify, you can apply and we give you the materials and we help with your marketing, and you can get in and be a speaker at the local associations or the state associations or the Women's Council or a brokerage. There's lots of ways to be able to get in front of agents. I know a lot of people still say, cold call agents and can I have a cup of coffee with you? That's not something that works for me, that I would ever do, just because I feel people get hit up a lot. Even in my position, can I call you? Can I pick your brain? That type of thing. I love doing the business coaching, but if I was a real estate agent, you get hit up by everybody. So every new stager does it. Title reps do it. Mortgage lender does it. Everybody does it. So it doesn't work for me. It might work for you. You can certainly try it.
If I could throw one out there, Shell, where you can capture the agent, you're looking for listing agents, right? They're the ones who need to stage the home. Look in your local publications and go to their open house. There's no gatekeeper that's at an office who's going to stop you. If you take them a bottle of water or just a little snack, they're usually just standing around. Now, if you go into the home and they have a bunch of people walking through the listing, well, then just drop your card off, say you want to come by and just say hi and leave. But a lot of times they're just sitting around waiting for somebody to come in the door. And you might have the opportunity to capture their time, and they'll ask you questions. And even if the home is staged by somebody else and you're just trying to now get their business, you can bring up, like we're talking about a value-added program here, you can bring other value-added components that you bring to the table that maybe a stager they're working with doesn't. But they're just there and you know that they're going to be at their open house. So I've done that before, and it's worked out very, very well, as long as you're respectful of when a potential buyer is walking in the door, that you just kind of step aside.
Yep, I like that advice as well. I just would respectfully disagree a little bit. If you know that it's staged already and they're working for somebody else, I would give the respect to that particular stager. I know if you had staged something and another stager walked into yours and was hitting on your agents, the whole poaching thing comes involved, and I personally wouldn't do it. But when you walk in, sometimes you might not know that it is staged. And if you recognize that it is, you can just be doing some research and looking and say, I'm so sorry. Even if you're honest with them and say, you know what, I was actually coming to meet you. and drop off some information about my staging services, but I see you already work with a stager. I'm so sorry. And they will appreciate your integrity by saying that. And then at that point, they might say, not a worry, let me have your stuff anyway. Maybe I need a backup. And then now you've been invited to leave it. And so that's the way that I would handle something like that. But open houses are a great way to be able to get your foot into the door. I love that. Any other questions? Great, Carol, that's awesome. Go ahead and type them. We've still got time. And I love doing these webinars. So any question that you have, any stage of your business, we're totally open to it. Okay, so what else do I have to tell you? Let me update you on some things with RESA. If you haven't seen it on social media yet, we have a new event called RESA Connect, and we're having an event February 28th and March 1st, resaconnectatlanta.org. I would highly recommend that you check it out. A lot of what feedback that we're getting right now from stagers, it happens to be the seasoned ones because they're finding themselves in this position right now. However, I'm going to stress, I cannot stress enough that this is for every stager. Even if you're new and starting out, this event will be for you because you don't want to be in the position that some of these seasoned stagers are finding themselves in right now, where they don't know how did they plan for their future? Is their business sellable? What were the things they needed to do in order to sell their business? Are you running a staging business or do you have a practice? Because they're two very different things. So to figure out what type of business model that you really have, and you want to know how to plan for your future. So as far as RESA Connect Atlanta, this information is going to really be about how to plan for your future, tax strategies, savings. Again, are you a business or are you a practice, which is very different? And what do you need to do now in order to sell later, and business valuations? So it's very, very important to be able to set your business up now and make sure that everything it is that you're doing is going to be a benefit for you. So later on down the line, you can sell your business. And then we're also going to have a session on hiring the right staff. When do you know to hire? How do you hire? How do you get the right team? That's by Anthea Click. She's an amazing stager. She has a 14,000 square foot facility in Nashville, Tennessee. She's the perfect person to be able to give this presentation. And the other presenters are actually attorneys and CPAs and business valuators. So a lot of great information. And then we're also doing the second day a tour of America's Mart. So if you also have not heard, we formed a buying group where you can get better than wholesale pricing and better designer pricing than you can on your own if you walk into a lot of wholesale providers. So if you are starting to buy wholesale, this is also an event that you're going to want to be a part of. So it's a 2-day event. I believe it's $3.99. I'm going to pull up the website really quickly just to be able to make sure. But you can also buy at the same time and get into the buying group. The buying group, it's $5.99 for non-members. It'll be $3.99 for regular stager members and $2.99 a year for RESA Pro members. And yes, the 1-day pass for RESA Connect Atlanta, if you only want to go to the 1 day for the education, it's $3.99. And then if you want the full access pass where you get the education on day 1, the tour on day 2, plus the buying group, that's $6.98. So everything, that's saving a lot of money to be able to do it all at once and to be able to get in there. So check that out. It's a great event. Again, you don't have to be in business for a long time. These are things you want to start doing now and thinking about now, so you can be ready later when you want an exit strategy. So let's talk about pricing. I see a couple questions on pricing. We always get that. Lots of advice, but what do you want to know about pricing? Here's the thing. A lot of people ask, how do you price your business? And it's really a simple formula. It's your cost plus what you need to make a profit. And that's relative. So it's different for everybody. But that's really so simple as what it comes down to. So I spoke to somebody earlier today who had a question about pricing for a luxury occupied. She's like, I don't know how to price it. I said, well, why are you pricing this any differently? Your time is worth your time. It takes you the same amount of effort to get up in the morning, to get dressed, to get in your vehicle, to go to your warehouse, to pull your inventory. All those things are the same steps. You're going to spend longer at a luxury home because it's a larger home. So you're going to add more fees onto that. So I would make it as simple as humanly possible with your pricing. If you know on a job, any given job is $2,000 for your cost, and those are your fixed costs. And you know that in order to make this a profit, to be able to pay for that, your 2,000 might be your staff, a little bit of rental, whatever it may be, that's 2,000. But you need a profit on top of that of $1,000 to make it worth it for you to do the job. Add on $1,000 to the job. It's really that simple. But you also want to make sure that you are competitive in your pricing. The last thing that people want to do is be the low price leader. People sort you. Do you ever go to Amazon and you look for a product? What do? I know what I do. I sort. I use that filter, right? And I search by the lowest price. It's the first thing that I always do. I'm pretty frugal. I want to find the best deal, and that's what I do. And then you know what I do after I look at the lowest price? I flip it around and I look at the highest price. Why do I do that? Because I want to see what I'm missing out on. I want to see the different in quality and what it is that I can get. Now, if it's something that is not a big deal, that I don't need a big quality of something, you know, I might go ahead and get the cheapest one out there. I'm looking for something on price and that's it. I don't need the quality. But when I want the quality, I'm going to search for the quality. Well, you're being searched that way as well. People are using filters on stagers every single day of the week. Stagers just aren't thinking of it that way. So many stagers go out and they underbid everybody else with the lowest price just to get the job. And it's the quickest way to put you out of business and make you miserable in 12 to 18 months if you make it that long. So when I say if you make it that long, if you have real bills to be able to pay, you're not going to make it that long. If you have a secondary income in your home where this is something where the household doesn't rely on your income, you will make it that long. And when you do make it that long, in 12 to 18 months, what's going to happen is you're going to say, you know what? I'm really working a lot and I love what it is that I'm doing, but boy, this just really isn't, isn't worth it to me. I need to be making more money. I need to raise my prices. I've talked to people that have said, I need to double or triple my prices in order to be competitive and profitable. So it's very important that you get your pricing down as soon as you humanly can, and get it done and be competitive. As long as you're able to bring your A game and you can make the staging look amazing, there's no reason why you shouldn't be competitive in your pricing. I see a lot of people say, I'm just starting out. Okay, well, let's tell the world you're a newbie by low price leader. You don't want to do that because when you come in again with the super low price, that screams not a professional, not confident in what it is that you're doing to people. And also, when you are really, really low in your prices, you're going to collect those clients. They're going to be attracted to you that can afford that. And sometimes it's not the right client that you want to be working with. So that's kind of my advice on pricing. Nikki's asking, what's my opinion on mailing home sellers with the home currently listed a letter letting them know about your services? Actually, Nikki, awesome idea. I actually teach a class on that. It's called Trailblazing Marketing for Stagers, and it teaches just that. And what I teach in this particular class, and I'll just make it simple for you here, use Redfin or any other of the online search engines for properties for sale. Most of them you can sort, you can filter, and some of them will allow you to download data. Redfin.com will allow you to download data into an Excel spreadsheet. And what you can do is you can search a neighborhood that you want to be working in, find a property that's been on the market for, and I'm just going to use random numbers, 60 days on the market. You're going to put together a one-page flyer, and it must be stellar, Nikki. It's got to be your best photography on the website, your best looking photo that you have on this flyer. And what you want to do is you want to speak to their pain. So when you speak to your client's pain, the message goes something like this. Do you have a property on the market that's been listed for more than 60 days with no offers? And they're thinking, oh my gosh, well, I have. Of course I have. Well, of course I have, because you know they have. We can help. We just staged this home in your neighborhood. It sold for whatever the claim to fame is. And when I say a claim to fame, it sold for $20,000 over list price in 4 days. It sold in 4 days. It sold for $5,000 over list price. whatever it may be is what you are going to put that claim to fame. And it's always, we can help, call us today. But again, the flyer has to be absolutely stellar when you do it. And then I want you to keep track of that. And once you keep track of this on your spreadsheet, when you download this, you can keep track when you sent the marketing message, how many marketing messages that was sent, how many times did it take for somebody to call you? Did you do a consultation? Did you do a full staging? You can completely keep track of this. I don't recommend just farming giant neighborhoods. People throw it in the garbage, so that I don't recommend. But the other way, I absolutely 100% recommend it. Over here, I'm a realtor and a stager. Knowing I spend more time on the homeowners, not agents. Every home I've staged sold less than 10 days, but they don't seem to want to make the jump. What do you, Kimberly, can you explain that again? I'm going to read it quietly to myself, but when you say they don't want to make the jump, I'm not following what that is. Okay, I'm going to move on to another question in the meantime. Important bullets in contracts and pricing. I think what you mean, Sherry, is what type of information should you have in your contract? That is a loaded question because the state laws vary from state to state of what it is that you do need in your particular contract. But I'm going to rattle off some information to you of things that you can have in your contract. I'm going to pull up some information because I can't rattle it all off by memory. But I will be able to address this. Okay, description of services, payment expectations, monthly rental, your cancellation policies, a rescheduling policy, client consent, hold harmless, absence of warranties and guarantees, artistic impression, photography and publicity release, pets, inventory damage or loss, SRM policy, scheduling, rescheduling, getting a key on a vacant, insurance, general liability, you name it. All of that type of information you're going to need in a contract. Did I say pets? Yes, I did say pets. And anything else that comes up. That's one of those things that you want to, your contract should be something that's like living and breathing. You want to be able to add to it. If something happens, add it in your contract. Sometimes you just can't prepare for things. There have been things over the years that people would never have thought. You know, when I started out in the industry in 2002, people would never have thought they would have needed to ask for a key to the property in order to get their, in order to be able to retrieve their inventory after the fact. But yet, we found over the years that people needed to be able to do that. So that's something that came into it. So anytime an issue comes up, you're going to want to add something like that into your particular contract. I'm putting a link on here that this is an actual webinar that I did. The class may be on there to buy, but go to the webinar. If you're a RESA member, it's free for RESA members. Log into Mora, the members only resource area. It'll give you a coupon code for our professional development webinars. If you're not a RESA member, it's $50. Or you can join RESA for $130, and then you're going to get over $600 worth of free webinars once you join. But I went ahead and put the webinar in there because I did that a while back for some people, for some stagers. What if you haven't sold a home yet? I have no stats to provide. Call us today. We can help. We stage in your neighborhood. Don't use that word. I'm trying to paraphrase, but call us today. We can help. It's that simple. So don't put the claim to fame, but still do the call of action. And then once you get the claim to fame, then you will put that on there as well. I want to do color consultations. It was in the training in a module, but I feel that being color certified and displaying that in my website gives more credibility. Yeah, absolutely. I think continuing education is wonderful. I think that you should take as much education as you possibly can in order to get education. and knowledge and be able to share that with your clients. What I don't want to see people do is get education, paralyzation, procrastination. I know some people that just do class after class after class after class, and then they take no action. So take the action, go ahead and get it. And I think sometimes people do it because they don't have the confidence. So get your color certification, put that logo on your website. I'm a Tony Robbins, Robbins Madonna's certified coach. I've got that on my personal website. I'm an infinite possibilities coach. I've got that on my website. Put your staging designations on your website, the logos, everything should be on there. How do you figure out what your competition is charging if it's not listed on their website? Well, if you're involved in a RESA chapter, people talk about pricing all the time, and people should be willing to share it. We do have a pricing report on the RESA website. We did this a couple years ago. I think it was in 2015. They were roundabout prices. They were ranges of what it is that people are charging. I don't know if it's changed so much. We'll try to do another pricing survey out there soon. The other thing that you can do is you can actually call people. If you have a good relationship with somebody or you're in the chapter, again, they should be able to tell you. I don't recommend calling people and saying that you're a homeowner and that you'd like to get pricing. It's not honest. You certainly wouldn't want it done to you. So there's just got to be other ways to be able to do that. So a lot of times you can call people just in the area, but let me warn you about something. You can have 10 stagers in an area. You can call all 10. Their pricing can be all over the place. So depending, let's say you just called one and one actually told you what she charged, she or he charged, and it's on the very, very low end. And then you do what she does. And then you've got different expenses that she does. And then you go out of business, or you just are not as profitable as it is that you want to be. So again, you need to look at your own expenses and to be able to make those determinations for your own business. Here's the other thing that I do know about pricing. We see it a lot. You have a stager who's charging what they're worth. It's a fair price. They need to make an honest living, and they give a bid. I'm going to use round numbers, say $5,000. And then you have a new stager that comes in and says, I'm just so excited to be able to get a job. I'm excited. I want to get my feet wet. That's what everybody says. And I'm going to charge $2,000 for the same job. Well, we know just right off the bat, the quality of furnishings, unless the furniture fairy has landed in their lap and blessed them with a big warehouse full of furniture, you can't possibly be competitive and make a profit at that particular price. So here's the thing. They priced it so low, they just missed out on $3,000 worth of profit. So it's just much better if everybody's priced competitively. That way, when you win a job, you know you won the job because you were the best person, not because you were the low price leader. I would never want to, for my own business model, know that I just got bids, won them because I was the cheapest out there. So if you can price yourself competitively, go after the jobs, get hired because people want you. And what I also find is that you can have 3 people in a RESA chapter. You're all friends, and you could all go and bid the exact same job on the exact same day and meet for lunch that day, and everybody can still get along. One person's going to get the job. All your bids may be slightly different. They might be a few $100s off from each other, but you are going to vibe with that client. One of the 3 of you are going to hit it off with that particular client. And that job was just meant for them. The next time you guys can go out and do it again, another person might get the job. So there should be plenty of business out there for everybody.
Shell, if I could interject there too, remember agents, when they talk to a listing and that seller wants to get it for as cheap as possible, the agents are talking to the seller and bringing the value and all their experience and all their accreditations, everything, and the reason why they get paid the way they get paid. You're the same way as a stager. You have an expertise that maybe another stager doesn't have. You have an eye. Shell's right. Just a relationship. You get along with someone, and maybe it's just a personality thing, but you are of value. And so to price your stagings based on the value you're bringing to the table is always a solid place to run your business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Staging scams. Oh my gosh, Charlotte. Again, nobody would think these things would have happened, but they do. Here's the thing. Go with your gut, ladies. If you get something, we are not wrong. there are reasons why women have children, because we know when they lie. You know when somebody's lying to you. You know when something doesn't feel right. Your inner knower, your intuition tells us, right? Go with your gut. So, but some of the things specifically is that when somebody's asking you, if they're asking to write a check for something, or they're out of state, they can't get something to their vendor. Can you spot me this and I'll pay you back? I'll write you a check. Or they're trying to float money from one person to another. Most of the time you can tell a scam, first of all, just by the way it is that they've reached out to you. Sometimes it's, I found you on Houzz. I'm looking for a decorator. I want to stage a listing. This is what I'm looking to do. Sounds like a scam, most likely is. Copy it, post it in the Stage It Forward group or the RESA group and say, is anybody getting this? And I guarantee 20 other people have probably gotten it. But for sure, people asking you to float money from one vendor to another, that is very, very shady and should be very easy to be able to pick out. But let's just talk about not just scams. I mean, clients that sometimes you get a vibe from a client. We saw on Facebook last week, somebody was talking about a agent that had rescheduled on her 3 or 4 times. She actually got to the property. The agent wasn't there. She emailed, the agent emailed back, I'm sorry, I forgot, I'm across town, I can't get there, let's reschedule again. And she's frustrated thinking, should I reschedule? And my advice was absolutely not. This person is showing you how they do business. The only thing, if you want to be disappointed in the future and you want to be disrespected for your time in the future, and you want to have that client that's a PITA, we all know what that stands for, then go back, sign yourself up again. But Maya Angelou said, you know, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. So let's talk about the sketchy clients. Those clients that are always asking for concessions, the ones that don't respect what you're doing. Don't be afraid to say no. One of the biggest things that stagers don't do is just have the confidence to be able to just stand on your own and to be able to walk away. And people want to negotiate your price. And no, I don't. I said, I appreciate, I'd say to somebody who's wanting me to ask, come down on my price. Can you do it for a $5,000 job? I need it for $4,000. Okay, let me rework. I'll be happy to rework that bid for you. So then you have to take out things out of that bid to get to that $4,000. So when you present it to them, saying, now I can't do what we were going to do for the $5,000 for $4,000, but this is what we can do for $4,000 to keep in your budget. And then you give them the option at that point. But the thing is, you don't want to come down on your price. And this is why. Imagine it this way. If you came to me and said, Shell, I want to buy something from you, and you're saying you want to charge me $5,000, and I'm going to negotiate with you, and Shell, I can only pay you $3,000. Can you come down to $3,000? And I say, yeah, I can do that. I just cut $2,000 out of my profit. How do you now view me? That I really padded that bid because I could come down that far and still be okay by doing the deal. So that's the concept, that you kind of want to get the point across, is that you have integrity pricing. Christine Ray has coined that term, and I love it, and I use it all the time. I'm going to give her credit for it. It's integrity pricing. I don't inflate my prices in order to negotiate them down later. I'm giving you the absolute best price that we possibly can. And that's the way to kind of handle that. It's pretty simple. How do you convince someone to take a chance on you when you have no experience or references? That's your confidence level. That's where you have to come in. You just want to have some photos of work that you have done on your website. You may not have done it for an actually paying job, but in your own home, you can take before and after pictures. You just have to have them be amazing, Jody, which means that you're going to need to invest in a professional photographer, even if it's in your own home or your neighbor's home or your sister's or your mother's home, whatever it may be. Take the pictures with professional photography. And all you need to do is sprinkle a few great photos on your website. You don't need an expansive portfolio. Don't even put the button on your website that says portfolio. On your services page, have a nice, beautiful shot of a finished staging, and then list your services. On your about page, you should have your photo on the about page. You don't even need a staging photo on that particular page. Lots of ways to be able to position yourself as a professional without having an expansive portfolio or references. But you just have to be confident. You have to. Here's the thing with staging and making a sale. If you believe in what you're doing and you are passionate about it, speak with some passion. Use your own personality. I'm pretty animated, if anybody hasn't picked up on that. Kind of an animated individual. I could probably sell a snow cone to an Eskimo in Alaska on a snowstorm. If I believed in it, they'd be buying it from me. And it's really just about your confidence. So just be confident in what you have to do. And remember your why. Why are you getting up to do this every day? I would say, I know with my job at RESA, why do I get up every day? Because I actually like to be of service. I like to be able to help people. And I want to wake up every day and knowing that I'm doing something great, that I'm doing something good, and I'm giving positivity back to the world. That's my why. So with your why are you doing this? Most stagers actually don't say, well, I'm doing this to get rich, because that's just not a great why to be able to do it to get rich. Most people say is, I really like to help people. And yes, you love staging, but ultimately you are helping people get out of their situations. You're helping people get as much equity out of their property as they can. You could help them be transitioning from one property to the next. They might be downsizing. There could have been a death, a divorce in the family. Anything could be happening. And you're helping them. And you're helping them get the most equity that they possibly can, most bang for their buck. So I think that if you just position it and you speak from the heart and you speak with some passion, you should be able to get people to take a chance on you. Oh, you love touch, Sheila. I love them too. I love Mike Dooley. I think he's a pretty cool person. Enjoyed the training very much. Ida, what color training program do I recommend? See, I cannot recommend, it wouldn't be ethical of me for the CEO of RESA to recommend one or the other. So I'm going to tell you the ones that we work with. If you go to the RESA website and you hover over education, I believe it says education on the website, and you're going to get a drop down and you're going to see staging training. If you go here and you get home staging training, you'll find the expert psychological stager. I believe she has a color class. The Decorating and Staging Academy has a color class. HSR has a color class. I believe CSP has a color class as well. But I would click on all of them. Click on everybody's logo, see if they have a color class, and then check them out. You can also get some referrals from some other people. So Audra's got a new one that she just came out with. The DSA has one. They've had a long-standing one. Christy Barnett, expert psychological stager. Check them all out. Find the one that works best for you. It's going to match what it is that your needs are. The RESA board in your chapter is amazing, and they shared so much with the newbies. That's awesome. I love that. Where are you located, Carol? Yes, and Yolanda has confirmed for me that CSP does have a color class. Yolanda, who teaches that class? Let's see if she's still here. Oh, Charlotte, very good. Very good. So any other questions that we can wrap up? We're right about at an hour right now, but if anybody has a couple more, I'm happy to stay on. Jan, that's right. Jan teaches the color class for CSP. Jan also helped write the book, or she wrote the book, Sewing for Dummies. I think she wrote that book. Very educated. All right, I think that's going to be it for me for this evening. I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight, spending your evening with us. Bob, thank you for being on the call. We appreciate everything you've done for our industry. Remember that it is lots of stuff coming up in 2019. Check it out, resaconnectatlanta.org. There's also resaconnecttoronto.com. If you are in Canada, in the Ontario, Toronto area, we're going to be having that event in January. It's a similar fashion, 2-day event, 1 day worth of education, second day with a tour of all the showrooms at the Toronto International Design Center. And again, check out resaconvention.com. In the beginning of the new year, we'll start to sell tickets for RESACon in July, so keep the dates open at the end of July for RESACon as well. And again, thanks for joining us. Happy staging, everyone.